This is Holy Family School of Faith.
Hey guys, welcome to the table, Conversations on Catholic Education. Today, I would like to speak to you guys of good conversation. One of the reasons the School of Faith exists, like one of our three pillars of existence, right? Friendship with others, that means Jesus and other people. Good conversation and praying the rosary. How are these three things connected? We could talk a lot about those things, but today I really just want to talk about the good conversation piece, and it's only one aspect of it. They're kind of inexhaustible and they're very deep topics. But how do you foster great conversation? Are we capable of it? The answer is, of course you are. You are human. You are capable of good conversation. You're meant to feast on the truth. And as human beings, we can communicate. Good conversation, you're meant for it. Oftentimes, it can feel like they just come up out of nowhere. They're like Kansas weather. Right now we live in Kansas, right? So we're familiar with Kansas weather patterns. Maybe where you live, you also have weather patterns like this. It can go from sunny to stormy very, very quickly. And sometimes good conversation can be like that. How did this come up? It just kind of happened to us. And trying to foster good conversation can sometimes feel like trying to bottle lightning or predict Kansas weather, which, if anyone's lived in Kansas, know that can be rather difficult and surprising. So I want to share one thing that's been very helpful to me. It's been helpful to me as a parent and as a classroom teacher in fostering conversation. That's where I kind of live as a teacher. And it's one of the things I live for and try to foster a lot. And it was shared with me by another educator by the name of Andrew Kearn, and I'll put his information here. I've talked about him before. He shared this very ancient way of asking questions about the world. And it goes all the way back to Aristotle. It turns out Aristotle thought that there were these places that we all go to find out about the world around us. These mental places. He called them the common places because we all went there. And these places are questions that you already ask and that your children, no matter how young, already ask. It's part of the genius of this. And they're so simple. I'm going to share it with, and you'll even say, "That? How is that helpful?" And I've actually found the simplest things are actually the most helpful sometimes. There's actually several common places. Maybe we'll have a couple ones where I'll share different ones. But again, you should check out his talks on all of them. But today I want to talk about the commonplace of comparison. Comparison. It's where you take two things and you say, how are X and Y similar? How are X and Y similar? This is actually, again, very normal, and you are probably doing it without even realizing that you're doing it. If you have children, you should pay attention to how much they do this naturally, actually, today. That'd be a fun activity to do just as a parent, just to observe it. But you go outside and you hear something singing, and your attention is taken to a nearby branch, and you see this little creature with wings. And you realize, oh, I've seen things like this before. Maybe you're a very young person. Maybe you're a 2-year-old, right? And you look and you say, bird, right? And you know very quickly that that's like other birds, right? It's on a branch, it has wings, it can fly, has beak, and it can sing. And then as time goes on, as the child grows, or really just as we continue to observe it, as an adult, we start noticing the unique things. How is it similar, but how is it also different from other birds? And you realize, oh, that bird's song is different, or that bird's color is different. And then you learn the names of those birds. Well, how did that really happen? It happened because your mind went to the place of comparison. It looked at two things, held both things in your mind, which already is pretty magnificent if you think about it. That you can have two birds in your mind right now. I'm not even looking at a bird. I can just imagine them, and you can too. And you can compare them. And by comparing them, you learn something about reality around you. See, this is how learning actually is designed to happen. There's no technique to it. It's not really terribly complicated. It just needs an eye to these things. And this commonplace of comparison is actually very good for generating conversation. Why? Well, because when you ask, how is Jesus like Aslan? How is Iron Man like Jesus? You open up the possibility of maybe a thousand good answers, and you allow the person to seek after truth in a really beautiful way, in a very open-ended way, that's still seeking the truth. And this is the power of the commonplaces. If you need to get even more specific, right? Andrew Kearn actually suggests asking, what do both of them have? So if you look at, say, Jesus and Iron Man, what do they both have? You might have to think about that for a while. What do they both do? Oh, they save people. Oh, they fight. Oh, they have families. They love. What are they both? Well, they're both heroes, maybe. And you see, your mind starts to consider these things. And you very quickly realize that reality is much more than just what might meet the eye. And your children are always doing this. They're always doing this. And actually, some of the funnest conversations with children or students is when you take two things that they hadn't considered before and ask, how are they similar? You'll also notice, as teachers, some of the brightest students are the ones that can find similarities between things on an unprompted way. It's because they've developed the habit, the mental habit of comparing things. And that is how the human soul, that's one of the ways the human soul learns. And that's worth every parent knowing. Because you're totally capable of helping them do this. Because they're already doing it. Because they're built for it. Because you're built for it. So, what's your homework for today? What's your takeaway? I want you to observe your kids, your family members. How many times do you catch other people comparing things just to figure out how they are similar and different? And I'd like you to try it with some conversation. How are X and Y similar? What do they both have? What do they both do? What are they both? Go on a walk. Start doing this for yourself, just for fun, and see what comes up. What comes up in your heart. By the way, if you're praying with Scripture, if you're doing the Rosary, it's a great question to ask about the characters that you read about. If you're reading out loud to your kids, anything at all, or movies that you watch, obviously, or TV shows even, ask them to consider, how are these things similar? How are they different? If this has helped you, if this has blessed you, consider sharing it with someone you know, parents, teachers, maybe even students, I don't know. And if you would consider, join us for the Rosary, dailyrosary.net. The Rosary comes out every day. And join us as we contemplate the immense riches and the beauty of the world around us that God has given, and the truths that Christ has entrusted in the deposit of faith to his church. There's nothing more beautiful than that. Check out our YouTube channel, and see you next time here on the table. Peace.